right, welcome on into the Between the Hash Marks podcast, the triumphant return, the debut for the 2025 NFL season. I'm Matt Lombardo, joined as always by my friend, colleague, and mentor, and most importantly, the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone, Mike Tanier. Michael, welcome back and welcome in to football season.
Welcome to, I guess, season 2 of our podcast or whatever. You took a couple of weeks off. I took a couple of minutes off. How was the House of Mouse?
It was amazing. The kids loved it. We met all the characters. My daughter and I rode the Cosmic Rewind, which is always amazing with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Got some pool time mixed in there. It's the most magical place on earth, and for a few days, it actually felt like it.
That's great. When my kids were your age, I remember coming back from the vacation, the family vacation, and like really quickly going to my wife. It's like I was still a teacher back then. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
gotta go. I gotta set up my classroom and talk to the VP and everything. Going into my classroom in the summertime and sleeping for like 3 hours. Did you have that moment where you're like, oh, I gotta go work on some NFL things, close your office door, and just like turn the lights out and go?
Yeah, there was about a 3-day period, and if I'm being honest, I'm still kind of struggling with ratcheting it back up because you and I both go 10,000 miles an hour, 52 weeks of the year. But it's been hard for me to shift back into overdrive, especially when the last day of the trip, it's my son's third birthday. We did breakfast with Winnie the Pooh and Tigger too, and Piglet and Eeyore, and he keeps talking about how great that was, and how we had breakfast with Winnie the Pooh. You come down from that high, and you're going into the minutia of Detroit Lions training camp curses, and it's really hard to get the juices flowing again. But training camp is here. We have a big announcement later on in the podcast, a special guest on this podcast. So it's time for me to shake off the cobwebs and get back to work, is what it really feels like.
You shouldn't be going into fourth gear. You should be going into like second right now. Because I'm going to help you out here. You were away for a couple of weeks, so it sounds like you're away from your desk. It's been almost a month since we've talked to anyone. I'm going to go over all the things that have happened, and we'll get through it probably in about 20 minutes.
Perfect. I'm excited. And when we're done with that, we're going to be joined by former Philadelphia Eagles, Buffalo Bills, and Carolina Panthers wide receiver Jordan Matthews to get his take on the Eagles offense, where it goes from here, some of the top wide receivers across the NFL. And he was drafted by Chip Kelly, so we'll get into what the Raiders are building there. But first, Mike, as always, if you enjoy the podcast, please leave us those 5-star reviews and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You can check it out on my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. But even more importantly, if you enjoy Mike's very Mike Tanier specific blend of humor, analysis, analytics, and storytelling, be sure to subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack, and you can continue to follow my work by subscribing on Substack to Between the Hash Marks. That's what we're here for. That's what we're gearing up for this season. Big plans for both of us in the works going into 2025.
Absolutely. I think between the two of us, it'll be like your one-stop, quote-unquote, shopping for pretty much the NFL news you need covered from a variety of different angles. With you got the quotes, the insider information that you provide, and I'm providing the stats and the jokes and the goofiness on my end. And we're going to need that because it is starting to heat up. I'll start you out here. First thing that happened very recently, Jerry Jones gave a press conference yesterday and took a very public dump on all, to not to be crude, on his entire roster and his most of his key players. I'm sure you're familiar with what happened yesterday.
For sure. And I feel a little bit like Nostradamus here because in Four Downs on Monday morning, I included the breakdown of all of the drama in Cincinnati around Trey Hendrickson. And of course, what's going on in Dallas with the backdrop of these very bizarre contract non-negotiations with Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys, Micah Parsons, and his agent, David Mugoleta, who apparently Jerry Jones has never met. And I wrote in the column that, by allowing Dak Prescott to wait to sign and allowing the quarterback market to set itself, Dak Prescott costed more. By allowing CeeDee Lamb to wait, forcing him to wait and sign after the Justin Jeffersons and all these guys, now CeeDee Lamb costed more. And you're doing the same thing with Micah Parsons, that it borders on not understanding modern NFL economics. But
Right.
Mike, it seems to me Jerry might not even understand that injuries are a part of the NFL either, based on his comments yesterday.
And it's very gross the way he presents this, where he says, "Well, did I maybe I went too soon on Trevon Diggs? Maybe I shouldn't have paid him." This idea that he has landed on, well, maybe I shouldn't pay anybody because they might get hurt. where you're out there talking about how Micah Parsons missed 6 games last year. By the way, he missed 4 games.
Right.
Okay, and the team
Right.
garbage without him, etc. Well, therefore, what's the end game? What's the logic of this? Of saying, well, maybe I shouldn't pay anybody then. That's almost what he's saying. Um, have they already? Are they done for the year already? The Cowboys. I'm trying to think of how you rally your troops when they're still showing up for camp right now, and the boss is saying, "Well, I don't know, man. Micah might be injured. Maybe I spent too much on Trevon Diggs." He's like calling guys out like by name publicly in an introductory press conference, not for playing poorly, not for coming off a bad year, but for being injured.
The full quote, I think, deserves its moment in the sun here. Quote, just because we signed Parsons doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. And of course, it was only 4 games. Quote, I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out for 2/3 of the year. That's Dak Prescott. So there's a lot of things you can think about just as the player does when you're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money, unquote.
Then trade the whole damn team,
Right.
trade them all, and put a bunch of rookies out there and make yourself a farm team. This does, again, my theory on Jerry is that he's lost his fastball, so to speak, and that's what this sounds like. It's like, well, why should I pay for anything? The cost of eggs are too much. I'll be dead soon. It's this kind of logic. How do you say these things publicly? And then after you say them, because your verbal filter may not be what it used to be a few years ago, how does Dak and Micah and Diggs and all the guys who have to look them in the eye and Schottenheimer, how do they turn around and say, well, with that in mind, let's give 110% every day?
Right, and that's where I was going to go here. That as much as you want to feel bad for Micah Parsons, he's going to get paid one way or the other, right?
Yes.
He's going to get the franchise tag at the end of this year and again at the end of next year, or he's going to sign an extension sometime in the next couple weeks, couple months going into the year, kind of like Dak Prescott did last season. But I think that who really is caught in a really nasty crossfire is Brian Schottenheimer. You're sitting there again. You announce him as the head coach under the cover of 12:30 a.m. on a Friday in the middle of the spring that he's going to be your next head coach. And then you go to the introductory press conference at the start of training camp and you just take a hacksaw to your franchise quarterback, your star edge rusher, your star cornerback. And now Schottenheimer has to try to establish a culture, tries to set the tone for his new era as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, all playing out in the backdrop of being in a division with the two teams that went to the NFC Championship game a year ago. Mike, this just feels like an owner who, and I've had a couple people suggest this to me on social media the last few days, who cares more about the soundbite than the wins or the championships that come with actually contending and being a winning organization.
He's the same age as my elderly mother. We took her driver's license away a couple of years ago. I'm sorry, I don't like diagnosing people over the internet based on sound bites and things like that. But people say, oh, I think we're missing how that Jerry is in his mid 80s now.
Yeah.
And the way he talks about these things, the way an elderly person who's kind of lost their ability to handle some of the higher level decisions of life talk. I mean, that's what this boils down. Every time I hear a press conference, it's more like his verbal filter isn't there anymore. That his like understanding and grasp of what's happening in the 21st century isn't necessarily there anymore. I know there's a level which that's crude or weird or inappropriate for me to say these things. That's a more likely theory than some of these other theories I hear where he's playing galactic chess or that he's secretly broke or that this is some socio-political stance or anything like that. I don't think that's it. I think that this is an organization where Stephen Jones has to assert himself because it's gotten to the point where it's becoming very publicly obvious that Jerry can't handle the team anymore.
Right. And the biggest thing is there's nobody riding in to save the Dallas Cowboys or their fans because Jerry Jones is the owner. Jerry Jones is the de facto general manager. The buck stops with Jerry Jones in terms of talent evaluation, contracts, managing the cap, and all of those things. And this is just another litmus test with another star player, another homegrown talent who they've failed to reward early. You look at the teams that succeed across the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to talk about both throughout the course of the podcast. The Buffalo Bills have adopted this strategy. They sign their homegrown stars. The Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions do this. They sign their homegrown players, the key contributors of their success early, so that it mitigates having to overpay them and take up too much of their cap space 3, 4, and 5 years down the line. It's almost as if Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have lost a grip or never had a grasp of modern day NFL economics or how to build a team beyond scouting, evaluation, and drafting.
That's it. And that's it in a nutshell. It's not going to get better. And Brian Schottenheimer coming in as a promotion is not going to be a guy who can change the culture when he's actually fighting against the tide of the boss going out there and giving counter motivational speeches at the start of the season. So that's one of the things that happened. Here's another one. Lions camp opened and everyone's injured. Surely you've been
Yeah,
keeping track of this.
everyone. I actually have found multiple on the internet, multiple Detroit Lions injury trackers, official writers officially tracking the injuries that have happened in Detroit. Left
July
tackle Taylor
22nd. Go
Decker,
on. It's July 22nd. They have to do this. Go, 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 go.
shoulder, cornerback Ennis Rakestraw, chest, Levi Unwudzakari tore his ACL 5 minutes into training camp, edge Josh Pascal labeled as injured. And that's just a partial list of the injuries that have happened. Mike, I've screamed it on Blue Sky. I've posted about it on Threads. I'm going to ask you for your most creative answer to this. Who put the hex and the curse on Allen Park, Michigan? Because this is a team that had like 27 defensive players on injured reserve by the end of last year, and you're now having half a dozen or more players injured already, missing time before you even strap the pads on at Camp Campbell.
I think the answer is Bobby Lane. I think we all know he's the one who put the curse on the Lions. He's up in heaven on his fourth martini here at 1:17 p.m. and he's laughing at us. But Levi, I'm not going to be able to say his name properly quickly here. He was hurt, I think, coming into camp. I don't think that he's a new injury. Alex Anzalone
Yeah.
is talking about having to retire as a Lion. We went from, well, maybe he's back this year to maybe he's retiring. Malcolm Rodriguez, the Sugar Man, he has a November timeframe. A lot of these guys are injuries that we lost them last year. The Lions lost them last year. And I'm writing for the Almanac. And in the Almanac, I'm checking their injury updates. And they'll probably be back in August. Now we're hearing September. We're hearing October. Another thing that happened today, Tuesday, Ben Raven reported that the practice was so physical that Dan Campbell told them to ease up. Now,
Wow.
how physical are we talking? It's like Genghis Khan looking at the guys and saying, guys, settle down. Settle down. We're not going to pillage at this high level just yet. So he's trying to calm the guys down. He's probably looking at the injury list too. But like, what's going on if Dan Campbell has to tell the guys to ease up?
From pledging to bite and eat kneecaps in your
Nibble.
opening press conference to trying to preserve kneecaps during training camp.
Nibble on the kneecaps, guys. Nibble. It's July 22nd, guys. We don't have to make a meal of the kneecaps just yet. The thing with the Lions is, okay, so it's an injury report on July 22nd. Rakestraw sounds like he'll be back soon. That doesn't seem like a big deal. Others of these injuries they knew coming into camp, like I think Pascal and some of them wouldn't be available right away. We keep eating into the reality of the Lions as Super Bowl or bust team, where having these problems right away is just not good. It's like tripping out of the gate when you're a top runner, or it's a NASCAR stalling at the gate when you're a NASCAR driver.
Yeah, the feel that I have about the Lions going into this year, Mike, is on paper and when they're healthy and when the culture is on fire, as it has been since Dan Campbell's arrival, they are that Super Bowl or bust team. But you're talking about now losing both offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, former defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn to the Chicago Bears and the New York Jets as head coaches, respectively. All of these mounting injuries that don't seem to be resolving themselves, new injuries happening the moment they step on the field in Allen Park, Michigan. And this is all happening in the backdrop of a division where the Chicago Bears completely overhauled both lines of scrimmage. They got some weapons for Caleb Williams. Ben Johnson's that mad scientist, offensive play caller, quarterback whisperer. The Packers are the Packers. There's still a lot of young talent there. They're getting some of their draft picks from a year ago back and healthy. The Eagles are the Eagles. The Cowboys, for all of the drama hanging over Oxnard, have the talent to be a team that will be resurgent. The 49ers probably aren't going to have the same kind of bad injury luck they had a year ago. It's now starting to become a lot of issues that are starting to pile up in the corner that could derail the Detroit Lions, who have a murderer's row of a schedule to open the regular season through the first month.
That's it. This is not a team with a lot of margin for error. I'm also looking right now on the offensive line, Taylor Decker starting out on the pup list. I don't know what that's about. They're relying on Tate Rutledge to be the center. He just showed up. Okay, he's healthy. That's fine. Their other offensive line draft pick, Miles Frazier, he's injured right now. And that's
Yeah.
on an extended time frame. That's not a day-to-day thing. That's like a week-to-week thing. It's hard. Again, no margin for error, not an optimized situation. And you have this Lions team that's got to try and I guess solve this right away and flip the script and be ready to play.
For sure, and I think that the culture there is strong enough for them to fall back on. But what happens when you're playing Green Bay week 1 or week 2, or Ben Johnson goes in and gets his revenge in his first game against his former team as the Bears head coach, or you have to go to Baltimore against that behemoth in the AFC, and you're looking like a 1-3 start. Not all of your guys are back and healthy. Who knows what Aiden Hutchinson is going to be right away off that injury? It just feels like not only is the margin for error thin, but it's sort of the situation that we saw from San Francisco a year ago and in Philadelphia in 2023, coming off the Super Bowl loss, where when it starts to go bad, it can go really bad really quickly. And I think that's my biggest fear for the Detroit Lions.
Right. And then when you start losing the backups at position groups, like already at linebacker, it seems like the backup and his backup, that can be a problem. We're going to go from the sublime to the ridiculous. And you wrote about this before your return, so you know about this. The Jets spent some money. They extended Sauce Gardner and they extended Garrett Wilson. I assumed we'd be talking about this in November and December. I'd assumed they left this up 5 ways from Sunday. They got it done quickly about a week ago, and now they're ready to roll.
Yeah, real departure for how the Jets have operated over the past half century, right? I mean, you think back, this Sauce Gardner contract, this wasn't Mike Tannenbaum on the side streets of Hofstra pulling over to, renegotiate Darrelle Revis's extension and get the minute details done. They got it done before camp. They lock up Garrett Wilson. They took care of their stars, kind of like that playbook that we talked about from Howie Roseman and Brad Holmes and Brett Veach and these successful organizations. Mike, I spoke to a front office member in New York who told me, quote, it's great to get both deals done. They're both great players, but they both have a lot to prove in terms of stepping into that leadership role and delivering wins on the field, unquote. But Mike, I like these two moves. I think it signals a course correction and a regime change, trying to, adopt to the way that successful teams operate in the NFL. These are two of their best players, two top 10 players in their position, and Sauce Gardner. 120.4 million, 40 million guaranteed, obliterates the cornerback market. Garrett Wilson, 130 million, 90 million guaranteed, slightly more than AJ Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. They took care of these guys. They're betting on the future. And as Aaron Glenn walks into that locker room, he can now look around and say, okay, if you produce here, we're going to pay you here. And that's the anti-Cowboys.
It's true. And there are a lot of people, when they looked at the dollar figures, were like, well, Sauce had a step back year last year and Wilson wasn't this or that. And what about like their future cap space? The Jets have a lot more future cap space than credibility in in that they can't afford to sort of play games and be like, well, we're going to be money ballers with these guys. These are the two guys that you have as building blocks. If you get rid of them, you essentially almost have zero building blocks. So you're better off saying, well, gosh, maybe if we're a Super Bowl contender in 2 years, we haven't optimized our cap space because we overpaid those guys. It's better than what the Jets have been doing, like you said, for 50 years, or certainly since the decline of Revis and those guys, where it's like, gosh, I don't know if the top 10 pick from 3 years ago is really doing it for us. Let's get pissed off at him and trade him. Well,
Right, and I think it sends another message too when you talk about free agency, right? When you talk about guys wanting to go to New York, they're seeing that Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson got paid. They'll believe that you can go there, make your money, and get that second contract if you earn it. Whereas that hasn't been the mentality for the Jets for a very long time.
yeah, they're proving they're a normal franchise. They're they're demonstrating normalcy, and for the Jets, that's kind of the first step towards getting anywhere. And I'm glad they made those moves. Again, that my only regret is that I haven't been able to like go back once a week and do like some kind of report on it and have like this low lying fruit to pluck at whenever I talk about the Jets. Another team that took care of its business, slightly more better organization, the Chiefs, where they managed to extend Trey Smith and George Karlaftis to keep that nucleus intact. But they got some bad news that they couldn't really help. Rashee Rice, sentenced for his vehicular crimes to some jail time, a lot of probation, and is almost certainly facing an NFL suspension this year.
Yeah, not great for Rashee Rice in that offense. But I mean, you look at the situation with Karlaftis. He's a guy coming into the NFL draft. I remember talking to an executive who told me that this guy has JJ Watt caliber tendencies and traits. Now that might have been overselling him just a little bit coming out of Purdue,
Yeah.
but a total game record, 24 and a half sacks over the last 3 years, his first three seasons in the NFL, 10 and a half sacks in 2023. This is the kind of player that you want to lock up and make a cornerstone of your defense, of your front seven, right there alongside of Chris Jones. And it's a defense that, kind of kept them in games a lot last year as the offense kind of took a step back, especially in the postseason with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all those guys not necessarily living up to their past level of production. Big move for them. Like that receiving core, it's going to look a lot different in Kansas City if Rashee Rice, is suspended for any meaningful amount of time. You look at DeAndre Hopkins is now a Baltimore Raven, so it's going to look a little bit different in Kansas City.
How do all the old receivers end up with the Ravens? If I load up, I'm gonna see like Odell Beckham's name is still on their depth chart. If I go, that's a total side thing. But one thing about this, we're now in year three of boy, this Chiefs receiver core. Gosh, I don't
Yeah.
know who's getting the ball. And every year it's like, and this time we mean it, and like this time we really do mean it because I can't point to Travis Kelce and say, well, it's really funneling through the tight end, not with the Kelce we were seeing late that last year, although he had a couple games, decent games down the stretch. I don't know how that works, but in terms of a team doing everything they can to keep the nucleus intact, I like these moves. Karlaftis is interesting because I know a lot of the really tape grindy people are like, well, Karlaftis doesn't have a lot of moves. He's not like a guy who wins one on one. And on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, you just announced the production.
Yeah.
Production matters, and like the sort of relentlessness matters, and the scheme and the culture fit seem to matter. And that he was a guy who I know his athleticism was off the charts. It was inexperience, etc. He's becoming the guy the Chiefs want. I think the Chiefs have some benefit of the doubt in saying we're going to extend this guy because we're happy with what he's doing in house.
For sure. But there is a little bit of a landmine kind of waiting in the not so distant future for the Chiefs. And they can always fix this by going to Patrick Mahomes and saying, hey, let's move some money around. But
Mhm.
after this Karlaftis extension, only the Minnesota Vikings are in a worse cap situation in 2026, with Kansas City being 60.46 million over the cap in 2026. And then in 2027, very middle of the road with $72.5 million in cap space, coming in at about 20th in the league in cap space 2 years down the line. Now, obviously, the cap is going to go up. By
Right.
then, there are going to be higher projections and all that. But, it's one thing to reward your stars. It's another thing to put yourself in a situation where you need to figure out what the New Orleans Saints should have been doing and do that rather than continuing to kick the can down the road when you start looking at some of the cap space figures in 2026 and 2027.
Now, part of that Kelsey will disappear from that. I'm guessing Chris Jones will mitigate away from that. And as for Patrick Mahomes, I think it was Nelson Rockefeller used to say, if you owe the bank $100, that's your problem. But if you owe the bank $100 million, that's the bank's problem.
Very true. Very true. They need to figure that out. The Chiefs need to figure that out.
And I think Mahomes may be the bank in this situation. What else we got? Staying in the AFC West, for the you talk about hexes. No team has been hexed in July, like the Chargers organization. And it started on the 4th of July, where Najee Harris went to JPP's Fireworks Emporium and got himself a Red Ryder BB gun. And so suffered an eye injury, and I don't like making light of this too much, but also you're messing around with fireworks, you suffer an eye injury. Come on, and it's we don't know how serious it is, but he is not yet at camp. Meanwhile, Mike Williams, who I thought the team signed, and I think the team thought they signed seriously
Yeah.
to come back and be their wide receiver, retired, as did Philip Rivers, who I don't. didn't know was not yet retired. But Philip Rivers also retired, ladies and gentlemen, which means Keenan Allen's going to come back and sign and also retire to complete the set. But the Chargers are up to their usual hijinks in July.
Yeah, and they really haven't done enough, in my opinion, to upgrade that receiving core around Justin Herbert, even bringing Mike Williams back. And you start to wonder, what do you do? Do you call the Green Bay Packers and start asking about someone like Romeo Doubs or Dontavian Wicks? Do you start to ask around and try to pull off some sort of trade? Are you going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel of the waiver wire? But when you look at what the Chargers have built right now going into this year, Mike, it really feels like a team that's perpetually looking to upgrade at wide receiver is still letting them down. I mean, Ladd McConkey notwithstanding, who had a really nice rookie year, you're still asking Quentin Johnston once again to take another step. Trey Harris, Darius Davis, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Jalen Reagor is hanging around out there, Brendan Rice, Jalen Johnson, some guy named Des Fitzpatrick. I mean, this is who Justin Herbert is going to be throwing to before you even talk about Najee Harris potentially injuring himself to the point where he misses time messing with fireworks on the 4th of July.
Right. And in Trey Harris, you've got like an early round pick that they're really counting on. I think he's reported. I don't know all the second round picks who've reported and haven't reported yet. He's a guy who was hurt in the second half of the year. If you watched Ole Miss in the second half of the year and you were like, I'm watching Jackson Dart in his receiving core, Trey Harris ain't out there. Trey Harris was out there against Middle Tennessee State or whatever, Georgia Southern at the beginning. We don't know what they have in that. Our friend Mike Kay did report the Chargers have signed Nyheim Hines, running back, slot receiver type of guy. That's not going to get it done. You've kind of like gotten like a sub Austin Eckler replacement for Austin Eckler from a couple of years ago in there. It's the same old story, I think, with that particular team. Because like you said, like, oh, Justin Herbert needs weapons. He does need weapons. You would get more results. You wouldn't hear my stupid stuff about him if he had more weapons. He never gets them.
And I think rookie running back Omarion Hampton could be a guy that could push for 800 to 1,000 yards as a rookie. He could eventually supplant Najee Harris or at least forge his way into a thunder and lightning Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs type of, carry share, timeshare situation in that backfield. But signing Nyheim Hines is interesting, right? Because if you think that Najee Harris is going to be back by the second week of the preseason, or he'll be fully healthy by week 1 in the season opener, are you really going out and adding Nyheim Hines? Is Hines just a camp body to fill out reps during practice this summer? It's interesting given the backdrop of this injury because you don't really know how to set the expectations for him or what his role in the offense is going to be.
Right, and you're not getting straight answers from Najee Harris's camp, where you hear 4th of July and just injury. It's not knee, it's not shoulder, etc. The guy can report, and we're hearing that he was still, I believe it's Stanford getting treatment and all, which sounds like it's potentially more serious than we're being told. Obviously, that could be a gruesome situation. I don't want to make too much light of it, but we don't know.
And just a side note on this whole fireworks thing, right? Because obviously I was covering the New York the Giants for NJ.com back in the day. I remember having to leave my parents' 4th of July party to write and send in the official records request, public records request for the X-rays of his hands and all these things that were going on back then. And then this year we leave for Disney World on July 5th, and of course my neighbor buys all of these fireworks on July 4th to set them off down in the cul-de-sac. And of course, my kids are having fun running through like the smoke bombs and throwing the little, the firecracker things. They throw out the poppers.
The poppers,
but as soon as they started bringing out the big guns, I looked at both the kids. I looked at my wife. I said, "All right, time to go home. Time to get some rest before we leave." How is it that I, ahead of a vacation, can have those sort of sensibilities? Hey, I don't want to spend the night before this trip in the emergency room, but NFL players with tens of $millions of contracts still are drawn to fireworks displays, putting on their own fireworks displays 2 weeks before reporting to camp when only catastrophe can happen.
I don't put it on the NFL players. I put it on all my neighbors and your neighbors. It's like,
yes,
y'all are nuts. You're just goofing. You get a couple beers and you're goofing off with explosives. Don't. Not rocket science. It's a freaking Darwin test, people. We're going to grab some explosives from Walmart. We're grabbing explosives from like whatever, from some
Costco.
Yeah, right, right. Costco explosives, and we're going to drink beers, and we're going to get our children out, and we're going to do this. This is from when my kids were little. This is when we were little. Like even like the neighbors would do stuff like this. It's so needlessly dangerous. I guess I sound like a freaking snowflake or something like that. In my neighborhood, every town from like July 2nd to July like 6th, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, full professional display up there in the sky at this football field, that football field. One of them was over downtown. You could have your children overdose on fireworks every single night and enjoy it, but you have the need to go out there with your little Bic lighter and your can of freaking Coors Light and be like, I'm sitting off bottle rockets, man. Caveat emptor, caveat emptor. And in case, again, I don't want anyone's eye to explode or whatever, but like, I only feel that this sorry for you when you're literally bringing it on yourself.
Right, and eventually it becomes a responsibility that you have as a player to your
Yeah,
teammates and to the team, right? Because
right.
I can't fathom it. I don't understand the allure of setting off your own amateur little fireworks when you can go to the minor league baseball game and see the show. I don't
Yeah,
understand the purpose of, creating smoke plumes over the entire neighborhood because you
right.
wanted to set off your own miniature fireworks or risk
Yeah,
blowing off a finger or three or shooting your eye out with the Red Ryder BB gun, whatever the case may be. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't understand it. And if you're the NFL and your NFL teams, I think we're getting to a point now. I know it's only really two marquee injuries that we're
two
referencing
major
here,
injuries. Yeah, yeah,
but eventually you got to sit you guys down with before they check out of mandatory minicamp in June. Okay, here's the number for Uber. Here's a coupon for Lyft.
yeah,
Don't drink
yeah.
and drive. Nothing good happens after 3 a.m. And by the way, if you're gonna set off fireworks on 4th of July, you're thinking about it. Don't, because you're gonna get fined if you do.
Don't stay inside. Let your idiot cousin go out there and do it. And just one more thing about that: these people who feel like every dog has to be underneath the bed,
Yeah.
hiding and shaking while every baby's up until way past dark because they have to set those things off. But speaking of explosions, one more thing happened while you were away.
Oh.
Superman flew into theaters and brought back joy about superhero movies and Superman and optimism about these things in general. Did you get to see Superman?
I've read the reviews.
Okay.
I've seen the trailer.
Mhm.
I am dying to go see Superman. Now,
Okay.
obviously, it's tough for us to arrange childcare, so the wife is out, can't go to see Superman with her.
Mhm.
My father really lukewarm interest in seeing this Superman movie. I can only really deduce why.
Oh God.
Usually, he's into like the Batmans and the Marvels and all those things, but he's not interested in seeing Superman. My next door neighbor, maybe I could go see Superman with him, but would you go see it with me? Can we go see Superman? Can we fill up that giant tub of butter with a little bit of popcorn on top and go see the Superman movie? Because I'm dying to see it. I've heard great things. It seems hopeful. It seems like a resurgence of the elite
Yeah.
superhero comic book movies. I'm dying to see it. Can we go?
I think so. Now to warn you in advance, the popcorn is all yours, but I'm one of those guys who leans over and explains things during the movie.
Okay, that's
Like a
fine.
lot. Like not only will I tell you all the spoilers right before they happen because I've seen the movie, but I'll tell you things that happened in the comic books that it's based on. And then you'll have to like listen to me kind of explain the plot of the comic book that it is based on while the movie is still happening. And I do it loud enough so the people around us can also hear because they need to benefit from my wisdom. What do you think?
Yeah, so you're mansplaining Superman to me makes this a little bit less appealing to go see the movie with you. Is it weird if I go alone? Is it weird if, the kids go to bed at 8:30 at night and I shoot off to a 10 p.m. showing? Like, is that bizarre that I would go and watch Superman by myself, or should I make the trek into the Garden State and go see it with you and deal with the director's cut commentary throughout?
Yes, it's weird. Middle-aged men do not go to the movies alone. I cannot shame that enough. Please don't. Are you OC? Are you coming to OC at all anytime?
I'd like to squeeze in a day trip, but it's going to get the days are getting short. The
Right.
calendar is getting filled, but I might be able to pull that off. And there's a movie theater on the boardwalk again, right?
Yes, movie theater on the boardwalk, but I don't want to ruin your OC trip. Again, the mouse took over your Jersey Shore time and your Jersey Shore budget. We can work something out. I will duct tape my mouth shut. Maybe I'll come up your way, and yeah, we get the tub of popcorn. We watch Superman together. Maybe we stop afterwards for a couple beers. Maybe I fall asleep on your couch. I'm sure your wife would love that. And then I can explain the entire plot of the movie to her and to Sophie and to everybody else. It is not, you can't bring little ones to it. It's hopeful and optimistic, but there is some real violence in it. So yeah, it would have to be no 7-year-olds.
Yeah, I was going to say Sophia's out at 7, Luca at 3 years old. And we watched the trailer and he's like, I don't like this movie. I think
That's
he
scary.
realized right away
Oh
that it
no,
was a little
there's
too scary for him.
yeah, it would be way too scary. And there's enough grown up stuff in there that you can't do that. We can work something out.
Okay, good. Because it's been like on my mind. How am I going to see the Superman movie? And I knew that Mike Tannier would bail me out. I knew that the comic book superhero among us with the X-Men cover behind him, I
Yeah.
knew that you would bail me out and we could make this happen.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll talk off screen. Maybe we can work something out.
Mike, I'm really fired up about our next guest. Former Philadelphia Eagle, Buffalo Bill, Carolina Panthers, current free agent wide receiver, good friend of the show, good friend of ours from back in the day when we were in the Eagles locker room every day. Jordan Matthews joins us. Jordan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, guys. It's been a busy morning already. Took my son to camp, got some work in myself. Then we spent some time together, had lunch, and now they're napping. I'm speaking to you guys, which I'm excited about. And then I was telling you earlier, my 3-year-old's got a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese, man. So it's a full day, but I'm blessed for sure.
Chuck E. Cheese, that brings me back. By the way, the two of you, Matt was saying his kid turned 3 a couple days ago. Is that right, Matt?
July 11th, 4 days before my birthday. Yep.
Oh
There
my
you go. Okay, I'm the 16th.
No way.
I'm the
That's
16th.
awesome.
16th. Yeah. So we're knocking them out. Yeah. So it's a good day though, man. I'm excited just to go celebrate him. He's my youngest of 3 boys, so I got no complaints at all.
Happy birthday to everyone. And my youngest turns 19th on 19, excuse me, on Friday. So I'm
There you
gonna
go.
love every moment of this. It does get a little easier. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's what everybody says. I was at a father-son camping trip with my oldest, my 6-year-old, and it was all current dads, but it was one grandfather on the trip. So we're all trying to steal knowledge from him. And he said, trust me, he said, it all works out. He said, that's the only advice I can give you. He said, what you guys are doing right now is exactly what you should be doing. If you stay at this pace, it all works out. And so that's pretty comforting. So I appreciate you kind of piggybacking off what he said. I believe it.
That's tremendous and great to know. Happy birthday to your son. Happy birthday to all these July birthdays on the show. Jordan, want to pick your brain on one of your former teams, the team that drafted you. You know, the Eagles have quite the trio of pass catchers going into this year. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley. You can throw Dallas Goedert into that mix as well at tight end. When you look at that group, how do you think it stacks up, in your opinion, to some of the top receiving corps around the rest of the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it got to be at least in top 3. I know you've got the Bengals, like those 2 guys are pretty spectacular. I think Jamar right now. I know everybody is in love with Justin Jefferson because when you think about quintessential wide receiver play, he kind of makes you feel the most like you're watching Jerry Rice from back in the day. Like he can run the whole route tree. He catches the ball off the body. You can't get him in press. He can find the spot in zone. But man, I love Jamar. Jamar reminds me of that. There's a pocket of guys, you know, I call them wide runners. There's like you got Jamar Chase, you got Debo Samuel, you got DJ Moore. Those guys are the second they catch the ball, they turn to a running back. And it's not something you can really teach. It's something some of those guys either they trained it as they were young or they just have it innately. And I think Jamar, Debo probably at the top of that list of guys that can do it, but Jamar can also run the entire route tree. So that coupled with a guy like T. Higgins, that's a good 1-2 punch. So the Bengals are kind of right there with them. But I mean, AJ, I actually think you could probably put AJ in that group too. Coming out of Ole Miss, every time he caught the ball, you were like, is he moving fast? Is he moving slow? I can't tell, but nobody's tackling him. Like he was one of my favorite guys coming out. And I told a lot of people he'd be good. So he's made me look really smart over the years. He's a great player. I know Tennessee hates, they probably let him go. But then you end up having a guy like a Devontae. And the best thing about Devontae is he's a number 1, but he doesn't like his disposition to a locker room and to a football team elevates everybody. A guy in his situation could blow up a whole locker room, right? I know I'm a one. I know every single play could be designed for me. I could have a bad attitude, but he just plays the game. He approaches it the right way. And I think he's almost like a breath of fresh air, probably to everybody, not even just in the locker room, but in the city, because he always shows up at the big moments too. And just a guy, super humble guy. I remember when they drafted him. Um, it's not easy. It's not easy to play in Philly. And I think as a receiver, it's one of the harder positions to play, right? I think it's hard to play receiver and corner in Philly. Quarterback's hard to play anywhere. But when you're on an island and you're in a place that loves the game that much and where everything is going to be watched, you can't hide, right? But I remember telling my wife, I'm like, that kid's going to be all right. Like, cause you could tell he was made of the right stuff, and what he did at Bama, I knew he would. So he's made me look kind of smart too. But I think they're probably 1-2 Bengals, Eagles. I'm interested to see the. Sorry, I gotta talk good about another team, but I think the Cowboys probably got one of the best jump ball guys I've ever seen. I
No
think
doubt.
George Pickens. I'm telling you, like if he can stay right here mentally and just locked in, it's like his ability to track the football is the best I've seen. I mean, since some really, if I start throwing names out there, I'll probably end up people might get mad at me, but he's one of the best I've seen. So you have him, you have CD, they're probably right there, those top three.
And you talk about Jalen Hurts kind of playing his way into that conversation among the top quarterbacks in the league with
Yes.
that supporting cast, with the Super Bowl MVP on his resume already. When you look at them going into this year, how does that Philly offense and how does Jalen Hurts kind of take that next step?
Yeah, so I have no problem saying this. If I had a young quarterback and let's say I'm coaching, I had a young quarterback and I had to pick one guy to say, I want you to watch this guy and I want you to approach the game this way at the quarterback position, it would be Jalen Hurts. It would be him. I love Pat. Everybody, I went to the rec yesterday. I dropped my kids off at the YMCA and I just went to go watch basketball. And a Philly fan, guys, I'm all the way in Nashville, and a Philly fan comes up to me and is like, "Is Jalen Hurts in your top five?" I'm like, "Hold on."
Wait. People are bothering you at summer camp to give
I
your.
just wanted to watch rec basketball. Like I'm getting, bombarded with this, but I guess, I guess Cam made some, ripples because of his where he ranked him. But I said this, every question for me is different. But if I had a young guy said, I want you to watch how this guy approaches the game. 10 years ago, I would have said Peyton Manning, right? Jalen Hurts is at the top of that list for me. He's a finisher. He's a leader. You don't have to worry about what you're getting day to day. Now, when you start saying, "Hey, where does he rank?" There's a lot of great guys. You got Pat, who I think is in another stratosphere. I don't think we should rank Pat. He's done incredible things. I think after you put him over there, between Lamar, between Jalen, between Burrow, and between Josh Allen, like take your pick. I know people say that Jalen has a crazy supporting cast. So, how do we know? I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a lot of people with great supporting cast that would have found a way to mess it up. Trust me, there's a lot of people that have great teams that have found a way not to finish. But Jalen's a finisher, and so that's why I love watching him play. I like the way he approaches the game. He's probably one of my favorite all-around men in the NFL right now.
I'm stuck on this idea that you're just trying to go to youth sports, and Eagles fans are finding you in Nashville. And
Yeah, they're everywhere. I'll be in Mexico and it'll be like, "Oh, no, quiero Eagles." I'm like, "Oh, y'all everywhere," But it's good. It's a good feeling though, man. It's good to be loved by the city.
And Jordan, let's look around the league for a minute here. If you had to pick the one receiver who's the total package, has the traits to be elite, has the production, but even more upside from here, you're Jordan Matthews, the NFL GM. You're building your dream roster. Who's the number one wide receiver pick?
Yeah, it's going to be Jamar. Right now, it's Jamar Chase. The ability to catch the ball and make something out of nothing. Like I said, I'm gonna brag on my boy Debo real quick because Debo was with me. I was with Debo his first couple of years of the Niners, and I saw Kyle as an offensive play caller. He would always use words that were like, "We need something to unlock the offense," right? because if you're stagnant on offense, defense is getting pressure. You know what I'm saying? You're off the field 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Sometimes it's hard to scheme up a play. Sometimes we got to go back to backyard football, and we need somebody to unlock the offense. Let's get a first down so we can get some momentum going. Jamar Chase is an unlocker. Like the fact that you can just give him a quick screen and he can take it 30, that builds the confidence of the whole room. Sometimes it's hard to say, let's get you on a 15-yard dagger with a through route, and safety's going to do this. We're going to hit you in the honey hole. Football's not that predictable all the time. Sometimes you got to get the ball to a playmaker. So Jamar Chase is probably number one. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is right there, number two. Don't kill me. I think CD's top five. I remember Richard Sherman was hard on him a couple years ago. CD took that personally. CD's up there, 3, 4. But Jamar, I'm building it with him. A name that I would say still is up there. He had a down year, but you just can't coach it, is Tyreek Hill. Okay. So I think 2 years ago, we were having this debate up where I was training. They were like, Jordan, who do you think is the best in the league? I said, well, if you ask me, I like the way you framed it, Matt. If you're building a team, who would you take? Because if we're just talking about receiver play, carbon cutout copy, you can always say Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver, pure, right? But if I'm building a team, I want a guy that makes the safeties always worried that they're going to get beat deep. That's what D-Jack was so good at, and that's why I would take Tyreek Hill. If I was starting a team 2 years ago, I'm like, give me Tyreek Hill. I said that, then he almost goes for 2,000, but it's because you always have to account for him. So now, though, I'm probably going Jamar.
What about if it was a younger guy? Have any younger guys on your radar that aren't household names yet?
Younger guys, I guess Pickens is still young.
Yeah.
I like him, man. Just the catch radius. I think he's raw. I think he's one of those guys like I know people talk about Chris Carter and they see the professional side of Chris Carter, but people don't. But like he had some rough years when he first got into the NFL, and now George Pickens, it's not that rough. I'm just saying that I know what the narrative around him is that if he can just get certain things aligned, that he can maybe take off. I see all pro talent, but it's can it manifest fully into what it needs to be. So I've liked him since he was at Georgia. I love watching the kid play. Like if you go put on George Pickens highlights on YouTube, you can watch that all day. So I really like Pickens.
Yeah, Jordan, I'm really bullish on Dak Prescott and that Cowboys offense. Dak being back healthy, you pair George Pickens with CD Lamb. How important and valuable is it to his team's success having those two wide receivers? You talk about AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. You talk about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You talk about Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. How much better can that Cowboys offense be now that you have that legitimate number two with, let's face it, a top 5, top 10 quarterback back and healthy with two real weapons at his disposal like that?
Right. Yeah. Because the Eagles, what they've done now is they've made teams start to say, okay, that 1-2, like that idea of needing that is back. I think for a while, teams started to say, well, the Seahawks are kind of winning with a couple of guys that are just kind of really good, but a good run game and good defense. Okay, the Patriots, they made money for a lot of years with no real, like they would call him. I thought Edelman was a one, but people would not put him in that category. They would say, oh, there's a bunch of kind of good guys, but, they played really solid defense, overall good team ball. Well, once you start seeing, okay, well, people think Jalen is just kind of like, they think he's now climbing in the league. So what's that guy tell you? Oh, well, they must think really highly of his receivers. So if you got two guys like that on the outside that can win one-on-ones effortlessly every single play to the point where you don't even need a really difficult offense, that's going to end up being the new trend. So teams are going to start. I mean, look at what the Steelers did, right? Like they're like, hey, we're going to go get us a guy. You know what I'm saying? So I think that like that trend is now going to continue to go. Now you got to get the right pairing, right? Like I think Devontae and AJ are kind of unique in the way that they're extremely humble guys. They're going to be able to work off each other. They got a lot of respect for each other. There's no competition there. I think as other teams try and do that, you got to pick the right people.
Yeah.
it's got to work out that way. I think the Niners had that for a while with Debo and Ayuk, but I know they wish they would have been able to capitalize on it completely.
You're talking about Debo. He's in Washington with Terry McLaurin. There's another, and Jaden Daniels. That's another two
Yeah.
guys, possibly the personalities that could work out and be those guys who can work off each other.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're not really competing for the same ball per se. They're very different in the way that they move, but they're pretty elite. Like Devontae can take over a game. AJ can take over a game. Terry McLaurin can take over a game. So that's where I think their guys are starting to try and get to. I think another thing that you're seeing, like I just remember when I first got to the Niners and Kyle started getting more comfortable and teams started getting better. I saw teams around the NFC West start to do things based off what the Niners did. I saw the Seahawks pay Jamal Adams a lot of money. It's like we gotta have somebody out there that can offset what Kittle's doing. You know what I'm saying? Like on the second level, like the Cardinals were not going to stop paying Buda Baker because Kittle is a different element that we now have to like account for. These running back / receivers that can catch a jet sweep and go, but also can catch a ball, we got to start to account for it. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of people start to make trends in the NFC West based off what you guys are doing. Cowboys, they're like, we need two number ones. Now look at the Giants, though. They may be like, we don't want to give Jalen Hurts any time to throw. So our strategy is going to be, let's beef up this D line. That's how we're going to do it. But I think a lot of teams are definitely trying to react to what you guys are doing. And I think you're always in a good spot when they're doing that.
Now, Jordan, you were drafted by Chip Kelly back in
My
2014,
God.
and he's
My God.
suddenly he's back in the league now.
Yeah.
Suddenly, with a lot of weapons at his disposal, you have Ashton Jeanty, heralded franchise running back as a
Yep.
rookie. Talk to me about how Ashton Jeanty fits Chip Kelly's scheme, because before Chip traded away LaShawn McCoy, he had that historic season in Philadelphia. Chip Kelly's NFL return, run-based offense. How does Ashton Jeanty fit? What does he bring to the Raiders?
My favorite thing about Chip was he made the game so much easier. I mean, we worked in practice, but he would always tell you is like the game's going to be slow by the time we get out there. He was true to his word. I felt probably more confident than I ever did in any system, college or pro, playing under Chip, because he simplified it for us so we could play fast. We repped it constantly, but I mean we would work so that way by the time we got to the game, it was like slow motion. It was like it was like carving through butter half the time we would go out there and play. So I think there's a mindset that you have to have where you gotta appreciate that work. You gotta love that process. If you're not process oriented, it's going to be a little bit harder. It's going to take you time to really get up to speed to what Chip's asking for. That's why I think Ashton Jeanty is going. He seems like a heady guy. He seems like he's very intelligent. He knows what's being asked of him. And if you say, "Hey, we're working hard so that the game's going to be easy," I think that's going to hit his brain the right way. I also think that too, when he was with us, you saw success he had with the tight ends. I think that's kind of reminiscent at the Raiders what he had with us in Philly. He's got a Brent Selleck type, a younger kind of Brent Selleck with Mayer, but then also you kind of got an Ertz type with Brock Bowers, who can do what he needs to do in the run game. But man, like that dude's a threat in the receiving game. So that kind of reminds me of that. And then I think you kind of got a Macklin type with Jacoby, a guy that can run the whole route tree, very consistent, can give you 1,000+ yards. Kind of run the whole tree, smart guy. I think that'll be a great foundation for them to build on. But I mean, like Chip's my guy. Like I got more respect for him than most coaches, and so I love the fact that he grind. Like you gotta respect that. I know that when you're in this game, it's easy for everybody to take their shots. That's why we do it. It's why we try and do it at the highest level. That's the point of it. But you got to respect it. To grind all the way back, win a championship as an OC, and now we're back in the NFL. I couldn't be happier for him.
When you look at the Raiders, how do you think that scheme winds up taking shape? Do you think it's going to be the 150 plays a game that you guys had that week one against Washington? Is it going to be similar to what you guys built together? The personnel sounds like he fell into a situation where it's similar to what he had in Philly. But if you're kind of looking into your crystal ball, Jordan, how do you see the Raiders offense kind of shaping up from the passing game going into this year?
Yeah, I'm never afraid to say I don't know.
Yeah.
Offense, I guarantee, has evolved. I remember somebody, I think Chip was at UCLA, and some reporter asked him, I was watching it, and he was like, "Hey, is it going to be kind of like what you did here?" And Chip kind of looked at him and like, "You don't think that I'm evolving the offense? Like, why would I?
Yeah.
Why would I stay the same?" And so, we don't expect players to stay the same. We're either getting better or you're getting out the league. And so he feels that same way. I think he adopted more huddle when he was at Ohio State. There's times when I watched in the playoffs, like, okay, I remember us running that. Like, there's similar concepts, but like I said, I think there's a mindset that I think is consistent, and the mindset that I know is consistent is Chip's going to try and get everything out of you during the week, during camp, so that when the game time comes, the game's easy. That's from walkthrough, that's from meetings, that's from time on the field. It's never like, oh, we're coached. It doesn't matter who you are. Lowest draft pick, highest paid guy. He's going to get everything out of you. But that's what I mean. Go look at, even DJ. DJ, as phenomenal as he was productive everywhere he's played football. But his best yardage year was also with Chip. I think it was the same way with LaShawn. I know it was that same way with me and a few other players. So he's going to get the most out of you. I'm excited to see how he does it, but I can't say I know exactly what it's going to look like. But I know it'll be fun.
Jordan, before we came on here, you filled us in on this exciting charity softball game you just had at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Fill us in. What was that like? It sounds like there's a lot of star power descending on Nashville last week.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I think anytime you can galvanize the community for children per se, I think it's a beautiful thing because I think a lot of our young people don't feel seen. I think that's probably the biggest thing. We live in a world where everybody's watching everybody. You got your phones out, and you think everybody's life is better than yours. And so we connected with this foundation called Eli's House, where they take most of the families that they take in are single moms with kids that are close to hitting the poverty line. And if they get in more dire straits, they have the chance of their children going into the foster care system. Eli's House brings these families in, helps these women rehabilitate, teaches them job skills, helps them with trauma relief, the whole nine. So in 2 years, they get to go back into society in a much healthier space, and they get to keep the families together. We know the statistics, guys. Like if a child grows up with one, and especially two of their biological parents, their chances of having a flourishing life go up. So we want to try our best to make that happen. We know that's not the case all the time, but if we can keep families together, that's our goal. And so we met with the people at Eli's House. I told him, hey, I can get some of my Vanderbilt friends, some of my celebrity friends in Nashville. We'll play a game. We'll make some money. We'll make these families feel seen. I think we did that.
That's phenomenal. And Diego Pavia was there, right?
Diego, bro, I saw Diego. I went by Vanderbilt's practice today. They were in their last bit of OTAs before camp starts. And dude, he's a man. But he elevates that whole place. The juice. If you watch this dude at practice, I'm telling you, when he's under center, everybody from the line to the receivers, everybody raises their level of play. I know he's going to ball out this year. We're lucky to have him. But it's funny. Everybody's always like, "Oh, this is his last hurrah, then he'll be out there." I think he's going to ball out. I think somebody's going to say, "I at least want to see this guy in camp." Somebody in the NFL is going to fall in love with him. I'm telling you guys, somebody in the NFL is going to fall in love with Diego Pavia. Yep.
That's fine. And the charity is Eli's House, and it's out of Nashville.
Charity is Eli's House. Is out of Nashville. Now, I will say we are consolidating all the charitable gifts from the last 2 weeks. Silent auction, we closed that up. We got all the ticket sales from Vanderbilt, and we just closed up all of our sponsorships. So I'm delivering that check on Friday. So I don't want somebody to go to the website and think they're giving. Just go straight to Eli's House at this point. Eli's House is in Nashville, Tennessee. You can give to them. The money's all going there anyway. So if you want to make a charitable gift to them, you can do that. Matthew's Mission, you can look up matthewsmission.com. You can donate to us. I can assure you, I'm number one on the list of people that want people's money to go to the right place. I hate when people are like, "I don't know where my money's going." I'm like, me too. Let's get your money in the hands of the people that need it. So yeah.
Jordan Matthews out here doing God's work in the community. Much appreciated. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
man.
that doing
Appreciate that.
incredible work for the
Fine,
people of Nashville and across the
fine.
country. We appreciate you taking a few minutes with us. He's former Eagles, Bills, Panthers, 49ers wide receiver. You can follow him on Instagram at JMatt3X. Jordan, appreciate the time as always. Look forward to talking to you further up the road, my friend.
I appreciate you guys, man. It was awesome. Thank you.
Great stuff from Jordan Matthews there. We were both in the locker room with him back in the day when he played for the Philadelphia Eagles. One of my favorite athletes to cover. Really cool to be able to talk not only Eagles football and their expectations this year, but kind of what he expects from the receiver position around the league. Great stuff.
Absolutely. It's good seeing him again. Like you said, you see these guys a few years ago, you lose track of them as they go around the league. I kind of disappear from the locker rooms a little bit. Great hearing from him again.
Absolutely. And, Mike, you admitted to taking a couple days off over the last couple of days. Nothing as extreme as me schlepping the family down to Walt Disney World, but you took some time off. But even before that, you were hard at work with a labor of love with some of the premier football analysts in the country, putting together the annual FTN Almanac. You wrote half the book, apparently. You and Aaron Schatz were both kind enough to hook me up with a copy of the Almanac. I dove into it this weekend. I already feel smarter for it. I've already borrowed some insight from it for some content. Can't recommend it highly enough. But what can people get if they go on and they purchase this year's FTN Football Almanac?
So you go to FTN, that's Foxtrot Tango, N is in network, fantasy.com. It's the old Football Outsiders Almanac. I think you can see some of them behind me. Maybe you can't. I'm not going to reach back there right now. All the Aaron Schatz, DVOA related analysis that you came to expect for 20 years. Over 20 years, we've been doing this. So you have 32 team chapters, not just fantasy stuff, but we talk about the offensive lines. We talk about trends, defense, secondary. Then we have quarterback, running back rankings at the end. Then we have a college section. This is a jumbo-sized almanac. So you go to ftnfantasy.com. You see how to order it. Also available on Amazon in hard copy. Best way to get it, though, is you get it as a PDF. And if you look around, FTN also has other statistical, what's the word I'm looking for? Analysis and
Analysis.
yeah, there's a
Tools.
toolbox. Like stuff you think of as getting from PFF or from Sports Info Solutions. A lot of that stuff is available cheaper and in a more sortable fashion from FTN. So check that all out. And yeah, 8 chapters by me this year. A big workload. I think Brian Knowles wrote about 8. We got a couple other guys like Danny Pizzuta who've been writing with us for years and decades now. Excited about it. Come check it out.
Hoping to get on the wait list for a year or two down the line to catch a scrap of a chapter or two that I can join this illustrious fraternity. But I can't speak highly enough of Aaron's work and the work that you did at Football Outsiders back in the day that's really influenced a lot of what you do at the Two Deep Zone. People who read my column, 4 Downs every Monday, you'll recognize throughout the NFL season, I will tap into Aaron at 12:30 in the morning on a Sunday to get the key metric from a game that I'm trying to contextualize or a player's performance or what it means. Aaron's always gracious about his time, about his insight, and I love the metrics that FTN deploys and utilizes. I think they're really accurate and definitely worthwhile and worth the purchase of the Almanac this year, if for no other reason than the 8 chapters written by my esteemed colleague, Mike Tanier.
By the way, 12:30 in the morning is probably prime Aaron contact time.
Yes.
He's got 12 different spreadsheets open, and he's downloading game books and getting all that stuff organized. So you're hitting him at the sweet spot. One thing I don't really do anymore is I don't get to travel for training camps, but I hear you do.
Yeah, Mike, this is something I've been wanting to put together for about half a decade now. It's the first annual Matt Lombardo training camp tour. We're going to kick off July 31st in East Rutherford with the New York Giants. We're going to head down to Virginia to check in on the Washington Commanders on August 2nd. August 7th, we're heading to Latrobe and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there might be a couple of teams joining the fray over the couple of weeks following that. The possibility of a joint practice or two popping up to help get eyeballs on a couple of other teams. But it's a regional training camp tour. It's my favorite time of year. I'm excited to get boots back on the ground in some of these facilities. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have postcards from the sideline with incident analysis from each practice. You and I are going to be doing some live podcasts, checking in on these teams. after the practices, and then in 4 downs the following Monday. That's where you'll find some in-depth features and reporting from my travels. So I'm really excited about it. It should be a lot of fun, and it's a great chance to kind of get eyes on some really interesting teams going into this season.
Absolutely jealous. Absolutely jealous. Glad that you're going to get to do it. I'm going to be relying on you for that firsthand information because we do our best, like to go and we'll talk to local beats or we'll read everything. There is no substitute for being there, eyeballs, microphone in front of people, getting that kind of information.
For sure. And I keep going back to this, making treks down to places like the Senior Bowl. The players that came out of the Senior Bowl, I felt infinitely more knowledgeable of, a firmer grasp of who and what they are as players after watching 3 or 4 practices, going into draft season and now going into how they're going to impact their new teams. So it's going to be really interesting and rewarding, I think, for myself, the readers, the listeners, the viewers, to get that understanding of how these teams are shaping up, some of the position battles, some rising stars, just to get that firsthand knowledge going into the year. It should be a lot of fun.
What you got to do, as I can see it behind your head, take your East Rutherford Giants headquarters, Matt Lombardo, that little thing up there, bring it with you, put it in front of you. You'll probably be sitting at a table now. You won't have your cubby hole. You won't have the cubby hole. You'll be at the table,
No,
or you'll be out at that tent that they would put us in
I'll
sometimes.
be at the lunch tent. I'll be in the lunch tent, and it
You'll
can
be in the
serve
lunch
as my
tent,
like name tag.
and you'll have your own name tag there to remember, yeah, I belong here. So bring that with you when you go.
Absolutely, and great tip there. And for anybody looking to subscribe to the Substack, it's a great time to do it. I'm offering 10% off annual plans. This is going to help fund the tour, the gas mileage, the couple of hotel night stays, some of the food on the way, the coffee, all the essentials to provide the coverage. So you can subscribe at between the hash marks on Substack. But don't forget to subscribe to the Too Deep Zone. I'm telling you, it's the most unique blend of analysis, insight, storytelling, jokes, all of it wrapped up in one place. And Mike, I got to say, I really enjoy the previews that you dropped this week with the NFC and the AFC, the mixture of insight and expectations for each team and a piece of snark in terms of their expectations.
Football's back. I wanted to get back on the on the horse, and yeah, if you check it out right now, you see kind of what I do. There's jokes, but there's serious stuff as well. Try not to be too silly, while at the same time poking a little fun at some of the taking some of the helium out of the NFL and some of the things that we talk about this time of year.
Absolutely. Mike, what's coming up in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks on the Too Deep Zone?
We're going to be back to regular coverage. So we'll be covering things coming out of camp, news out of camp. We're only about 2 weeks away from real preseason games, and everything that happens in the preseason we'll be talking about there. The Signature Moment series has not been forgotten, where I've gone back and done some historical stuff, taking each team, not picking their 5 greatest moments or their 5 moments that you always see when you talk about this team, but mixing in some of the good and the bad, some of the strange things that happen in these teams' history. The Falcons are coming up. Now, you talk about a team with a strange history, the Atlanta Falcons. So sometime late next week, you're going to see their 5 signature moments come up. Give you a hint, we are not going to be doing anything about what Michael Vick did on the in his free time. We're staying with some classier stuff, but that doesn't mean we don't have a lot of weird Falcons history to go through.
I'm going to protest if 28-3 isn't the signature moment, the
It's
one
in,
moment.
it's in there. It's in there. It's in there. What's that
The
from?
amount of redrafts and angry phone calls with my editor in about the fourth quarter of that game.
Oh God, no, exactly. The redraft, the massive delete. I talk about this, I think, all the time. I'm in that tent. I'm in that
Yes.
their tent, and just like, and where the clock's ticking away to overtime, it's just like I'm jogging over to stand between the winner and loser things, and in my brain, it's like it's the Patriots. It's the Patriots. Just erase everything you ever thought about the Falcons. Erase that 1,000 words about the Falcons dynasty and how they're giant killers, etc. It's the Patriots. That the way I see it, that's like one of the signature moments of NFL history in the 21st century.
Yes. Oh, yes. No
Yeah.
doubt.
So with that
You,
up
you,
there,
you go from writing the epitaph of the Tom Brady dynasty
yeah,
to poking fun at the collapse and contextualizing what it means for the Patriots moving forward, all within the span of 42 minutes of real time.
real time with your brain swirling and come up with a new. A new lead beside well, that happened, you know, like you're kind of stuck there. But we're talking about Falcons history that's there. Of course we acknowledge it. I don't want to like rub Falcons fans nose in that, so to speak, so we talk about some other things, some happier times and some just weird times as well.
He's Mike Tanner. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanner. You can subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Those ratings and reviews really do boost the show. You can check me out on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL, Blue Sky Matt Lombardo, and subscribe to Between the Hash Marks on Substack. Mike, this has been a lot of fun. Great hitting the ground running once again, getting closer to shifting it into fourth gear, into overdrive. But it's great to be back on a weekly schedule with you. Look forward to next week's pod.
Second gear now, Hall of Fame game, go to third gear, save fourth gear. We might want to save fourth gear for about week 6. Trust me, veteran move. But for now, make sure you're in second gear.